Every business guru tells you that success is about who you know, not what you know. They push you to attend networking events, collect business cards, and schmooze your way to the top. But here's what they won't tell you. Networking events are where desperate people gather to impress other desperate people. Real power brokers don't network. They work. They don't collect contacts. They create value. They don't glad hand at conferences. They solve problems in boardrooms while you're wasting your evenings at networking mixers, making small talk with people who can't help you. The truly successful are home studying, practicing, and building skills that will make people want to network with them. Stop trying to know the right people and start becoming the right person. There's a tree in China called the Chinese bamboo tree that will change how you think about success forever. When you plant this tree, something extraordinary happens. For the first year, nothing. You water it, you fertilize it, you tend to it with care, but you see absolutely nothing above ground. Second year, still nothing. Third year, you begin to wonder if you're wasting your time. But then, in the fifth year, something miraculous occurs. That bamboo tree shoots up 90 feet in just 6 weeks. 90 feet in 6 weeks. Now, most people would look at that and say the tree grew 90 feet in 6 weeks. But that's not what happened. That tree was growing for 5 years. It was building its root system, developing its foundation, preparing itself for the moment when it would explode into the sky. The growth was happening, but it was happening quietly, underground, where no one could see it. Your life works the same way. Let me tell you about a young man named Marcus 3 years ago. Marcus was working at a small electronics store, making barely enough to pay his rent every night, while his friends were out partying, while his neighbors were watching television, while the world was sleeping. Marcus was in his tiny apartment learning. He was studying online marketing, practicing web design, building small projects that nobody knew about. His girlfriend left him because she said he was boring. His friends stopped calling because he was never available for their Friday night adventures. But Marcus understood something that most people never figure out. He understood that the person you become in private is the person you'll be in public. He understood that success isn't an event, it's a process. And most importantly, he understood that the most powerful transformations happen in silence. Today, Marcus owns a digital marketing agency with 12 employees. He makes more money in a month than he used to make in a year. But here's what's beautiful about his story. Nobody saw him coming. One day he was just another guy working retail. And the next day he was running a successful business. But that transformation didn't happen overnight. It happened over hundreds of quiet nights when nobody was watching. This is the power of building yourself quietly. We live in a world that worships noise. We celebrate the loud, the flashy, the obvious. Social media has convinced us that if it's not posted, it doesn't count. If it's not shared, it's not valuable. If it's not seen, it's not real. But I want to tell you something that might shock you. The most successful people in the world built their empires in silence. They didn't announce their plans to everyone who would listen. They didn't post their progress on every platform available. They didn't seek applause for their daily efforts. They simply put their heads down and did the work. They understood that loud success attracts attention, but quiet preparation attracts results. When you build yourself quietly, you eliminate the pressure of public expectation. You remove the need to explain yourself to people who wouldn't understand your vision anyway. You free yourself from the opinions of those who have never walked the path you're walking. You create space for genuine growth, authentic development, and real transformation. But there's something else that happens when you build in silence. You discover who you really are. When there's no audience to perform for, when there's no crowd to impress, when there's no social media to update, you're left with just you and your potential. That's where the magic happens. That's where the real work gets done. I've watched thousands of people over the years, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. The ones who make the most noise about their plans are usually the ones who accomplish the least. The ones who talk endlessly about what they're going to do are typically the ones who never do it. But the ones who disappear for months and then reappear transformed, those are the ones who understand the principle of quiet building. Think about the most successful person you know personally. Not someone you've seen on television or read about in magazines, but someone you actually know. Now think about their journey. I guarantee you that the most significant period of their growth happened away from the spotlight, away from the crowd, away from the noise. It happened in the quiet moments, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the solitude where real transformation takes place. This is not about becoming antisocial or isolating yourself from the world. This is about understanding that your most valuable hours are your private hours. This is about recognizing that the foundation of your future is built when nobody's watching. This is about appreciating the power of silent, consistent, daily actions that compound over time into extraordinary results. The bamboo tree doesn't apologize for its 4 years of invisible growth. It doesn't explain itself to the other plants in the garden. It doesn't seek validation for its underground development. It simply grows quietly and steadily until it's ready to show the world what it has become. You have that same potential inside you right now. You have the ability to transform yourself so completely that people won't recognize the person you become. But it won't happen in the spotlight. It won't happen on social media. It won't happen in the noise and chaos of public life. It will happen in the quiet moments when you choose growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, preparation over procrastination. It will happen when you understand that the most powerful thing you can do is build yourself quietly, consistently, and purposefully until you're ready to rise like that bamboo tree and show the world what you've become. Now, you might be wondering how exactly you begin this process of quiet transformation. How do you build that underground root system that will eventually support your 90-foot rise? Let me share with you a story that will illuminate the path forward. In a small village in Italy, there lived a master craftsman named Giuseppe. While other artisans in the town worked in the public square, showing off their skills to passers-by, Giuseppe worked alone in his small workshop behind his house. Every morning before dawn, you could hear the gentle tap, tap, tap of his hammer, the soft scraping of his tools against wood. The other craftsmen mocked him. They said he was antisocial, that he was afraid of competition, that he lacked confidence in his abilities. But Giuseppe understood something they didn't. He knew that mastery is not a performance, it's a practice. He knew that excellence is not born from the desire to impress others, but from the commitment to perfect your craft when no one is looking, day after day, month after month, year after year. Giuseppe worked in his quiet workshop, refining his techniques, improving his skills, creating pieces that grew more beautiful with each attempt. Then one day, a wealthy merchant from Rome came to the village looking for the finest craftsmen to create furniture for his palace. He examined the work of all the public artisans in the square. Beautiful pieces, but nothing extraordinary. Then someone mentioned Giuseppe, the quiet craftsman who worked behind his house. When the merchant saw Giuseppe's work, he was speechless. The craftsmanship was unlike anything he had ever seen. Giuseppe got the commission. And word spread throughout Italy about the master craftsman who had been hiding in plain sight. This story teaches us something profound about the nature of true development. Giuseppe didn't become a master craftsman overnight. He became one through 7 distinct but interconnected practices that he developed over years of quiet dedication. These same practices, when applied to your life, will transform you from the inside out. The first pathway involves how you begin each day. Giuseppe rose before dawn not because he had to, but because he understood that the early hours hold a special power. When the world is still sleeping, when there are no distractions, no demands, no interruptions, that's when you can do your deepest work on yourself. This isn't about becoming a morning person for the sake of it. It's about claiming the most peaceful, most focused hours of your day for your own development. The second pathway deals with how you feed your mind. Giuseppe didn't just work with his hands. He studied the masters who came before him. He read about techniques. He learned about materials. He absorbed knowledge like a sponge. In our modern world, this means becoming a student of your own potential. It means consuming information that transforms you rather than just entertains you. The third pathway focuses on developing your abilities away from public scrutiny. Giuseppe practiced new techniques in private before he ever used them on a commissioned piece. He understood that private practice creates public excellence. Your skills need time to develop without the pressure of judgment, without the fear of failure, without the distraction of an audience. The fourth pathway involves building relationships that matter. Giuseppe wasn't antisocial. He was selective. He built deep connections with suppliers who brought him the finest materials, with apprentices who shared his commitment to excellence, with clients who appreciated true craftsmanship. Quality relationships, built quietly and authentically, become the foundation of lasting success. The fifth pathway requires investing in your physical foundation. Giuseppe maintained his strength, his stamina, his health, because he understood that his body was the instrument through which his skill was expressed. Your physical condition affects every other area of your life. When you're strong physically, you're strong mentally and emotionally. The sixth pathway demands that you think like an owner, not just a worker. Giuseppe Clisito didn't spend every penny he earned. He saved. He invested in better tools. He prepared for opportunities that hadn't yet arrived. This mindset separates those who work for money from those who make money work for them. The seventh and most important pathway involves developing your inner core. Giuseppe spent time in reflection, in contemplation, in connection with something greater than himself. He understood that external success without internal foundation is like building a house on sand. Your spiritual development, your character, your values, these become the unshakable base upon which everything else is built. These seven pathways work together like the ingredients in a master recipe. You can't leave one out and expect the same results. They support each other, strengthen each other, multiply each other's effects. When you commit to all seven, you create a compound effect that will astonish you with its power. Giuseppe's story teaches us that the world is full of talented people who never reach their potential because they're too busy performing their talent instead of developing it. But when you commit to building yourself quietly through these seven pathways, you join the ranks of those rare individuals who emerge from obscurity fully formed, fully prepared, and fully capable of achieving extraordinary things. Let me tell you about a fisherman named David who changed my understanding of timing forever. Every morning at 4:30, while the resort guests were still deep in sleep, David would quietly push his small boat into the Caribbean waters. No engine noise. Just the gentle splash of his oars cutting through the calm sea. By the time other fishermen arrived with their loud boats and competing crews, David was already heading home with his boat full of the biggest fish. One tourist asked him why he started so early when the other fishermen seemed to do just fine later in the day. David smiled and said something I'll never forget. The fish bite best when the world is quiet, when there's no competition for their attention, when the water is still, when everything is peaceful. That's when they come to you willingly. This is the first pathway to building yourself quietly. Mastering your morning hours. When you rise before the world awakens, you claim the most powerful hours of your day. Your mind is clear, your energy is fresh, your focus is sharp. These aren't just morning hours. They're your victory hours. While others hit the snooze button, you're already winning. While others check their phones and get distracted by other people's agendas, you're working on your own agenda. The early morning is when you can think clearly about your life. Plan your day with intention and work on your most important goals without interruption. It's not about becoming a morning person. It's about becoming an intentional person. Those 2 hours before the world starts demanding your attention might be the most valuable hours of your entire day. But what do you do with those precious morning hours? This brings us to the second pathway, feeding your mind like your life depends on it. There was a janitor at a major corporation named Robert who did something extraordinary. Every day during his lunch break, instead of watching television in the break room, he sat in the company library reading business books, finance, management, leadership, marketing. He consumed knowledge hungrily and quietly. His co-workers thought he was trying to show off. Some even made jokes about the janitor who thought he was smart. But Robert wasn't reading for them. He was reading for his future self. After 3 years of this daily practice, when a management position opened up, Robert was the only candidate who could discuss complex business concepts with confidence. He got the promotion, then another, today. Robert is a vice president at that same company, you see. Knowledge has a compound effect. Every book you read, every skill you learn, every piece of wisdom you absorb, doesn't just add to what you know, it multiplies with everything else you've learned. But this only works when you're consistent, when you're quiet about it, when you're doing it for transformation rather than recognition. This leads us to the third pathway, developing your abilities in secret. Let me tell you about Maria, a young woman who was terrified of public speaking but knew her career depended on overcoming this fear. Instead of joining a speaking club where others might judge her early attempts, Maria practiced in front of her bedroom mirror every single night for 6 months. She recorded herself, analyzed her gestures, improved her voice, refined her message. Her family thought she was talking to herself. Her roommate joked about her strange habit. But Maria understood that private practice creates public confidence. When she finally had to give a presentation at work, she delivered it flawlessly. Her colleagues were amazed by her natural speaking ability, never knowing about the hundreds of hours of private preparation that made it possible. Your skills need time to develop without the pressure of an audience. They need space to grow without the fear of judgment. They need the freedom to fail and improve without public scrutiny. When you practice your craft in private, you give yourself permission to be imperfect while you're learning, so you can be excellent when it matters. These first 3 pathways create the foundation of your quiet transformation. Master your mornings, feed your mind consistently, and develop your skills in secret. These aren't just activities, they're investments in the person you're becoming. Now that you've established your foundation through morning mastery, continuous learning, and private skill development, you must understand how to build the infrastructure that will support your rising success. This is where most people stumble. They develop personal excellence, but forget that true achievement happens through and with other people. There was a young accountant named James who understood this principle better than anyone I've ever met. While his colleagues were attending networking events, collecting business cards, and trying to impress everyone they met, James took a completely different approach. He quietly began helping small business owners in his neighborhood with their tax problems for free. No fanfare, no social media posts, no expectations of immediate return. Mrs. Patterson, who owned a small bakery, was struggling with her quarterly reports. James spent his Saturday morning helping her organize her books. Mr. Rodriguez needed help understanding new tax regulations for his auto repair shop. James showed up with coffee and patience, explaining everything in simple terms. Week after week, month after month, James served quietly, building genuine relationships based on value, not networking scripts. 3 years later, when James decided to start his own accounting firm, he didn't need to search for clients. Mrs. Patterson became his first client and referred 5 other bakery owners. Mr. Rodriguez brought his entire family's tax business and recommended James to every small business owner he knew. James built a thriving practice not through clever marketing, but through quiet, consistent service to others. This is the 4th pathway, cultivating meaningful relationships through authentic contribution. Real relationships aren't built at networking events or through social media connections. They're built one person at a time, one act of service at a time, one moment of genuine care at a time. When you focus on what you can give rather than what you can get, you create bonds that become the foundation of your future success. But relationships mean nothing if you don't have the energy and strength to maintain them and serve through them. This brings us to the fifth pathway, treating your physical health as your most important foundation. I once knew an executive named Michael who seemed to have everything: corner office, six-figure salary, impressive title. But Michael ignored his health for years, living on fast food, energy drinks, and stress. When the company downsized and Michael lost his job, he discovered something terrifying. His poor health had affected his confidence, his mental clarity, his ability to interview well, even his appearance. While he was rebuilding his career, his body was breaking down. It took him twice as long to find a new position because he lacked the physical energy and mental sharpness that good health provides. Your body is not separate from your success. It's the foundation of your success. When you invest in your physical strength through regular exercise, proper nutrition, and adequate rest, you're not just building muscle. You're building the platform from which everything else in your life operates. Physical discipline creates mental discipline. Physical strength creates emotional strength. Physical health creates the energy you need to pursue your dream. The sixth pathway requires you to think like an owner, not just an earner. There was a teacher named Linda who made a decision that changed her entire family's future. Instead of spending her modest salary like most of her colleagues, Linda decided to pay herself first every month. Before paying any bills, she put aside $50 and invested it in index funds. Her teacher friends thought she was crazy. $50 seemed like nothing compared to the millions that wealthy people invested. But Linda understood something they didn't. Small amounts, invested consistently over time, create extraordinary results through the power of compound interest. After 30 years of teaching, Linda retired as a millionaire, not because she earned millions, but because she saved and invested like someone who understood the true nature of wealth building. Building wealth quietly means living below your means, investing consistently, and thinking long-term while others think short-term. It means making today's sacrifices for tomorrow's freedom. But there is one more pathway, the most crucial of all, that brings everything together and gives meaning to all your quiet building. Without this seventh pathway, all the others become empty achievements, hollow successes that leave you feeling unfulfilled despite your accomplishments. Let me tell you about a man named Thomas who discovered this truth in the most unexpected way. Thomas was the epitome of quiet success. He had built a multi-million-dollar construction company from nothing, starting with just a pickup truck and a toolbox. He rose at 4 every morning, read voraciously about business and construction techniques, practiced new skills in his garage, built relationships through excellent work rather than smooth talk, maintained his physical strength through hard labor, and saved every penny he could. By the time Thomas was 45, he had achieved everything he thought he wanted. His company employed over 100 people. His bank account was substantial. His reputation was solid. But something was wrong. Despite all his success, Thomas felt empty inside. He had built an empire, but he had lost his soul in the process. One evening, as Thomas sat alone in his beautiful but silent house, he realized what was missing in all his years of quiet building. He had never taken time to build the most important relationship of all, the relationship with his inner self and with something greater than himself. He had been so busy constructing buildings that he had forgotten to construct meaning. He had been so focused on external achievement that he had neglected internal development. That night, Thomas made a decision that would transform not just his business, but his entire life. He decided to spend the first hour of each morning not planning his day or reading business books, but in quiet reflection, meditation, and prayer. He decided to use this time to connect with his deeper purpose, to understand why he was building what he was building, and to align his actions with his values. This wasn't about religion, though for Thomas it included that. This was about developing his spiritual core, the center of who he was as a human being. This was about finding the why behind all his effort, the purpose that would give meaning to his success. As Thomas began this practice of morning stillness, something remarkable happened. His business didn't just continue to grow, it began to flourish in ways he had never experienced. His employees noticed a change in his leadership. He became more patient, more thoughtful, more generous. His decision-making improved because he was making choices from a place of clarity rather than anxiety. But more importantly, Thomas discovered his true purpose. He realized that his gift for building wasn't just about constructing physical structures. It was about creating opportunities for others. He began using his success to build homes for families who couldn't afford them. He started a scholarship program for young people who wanted to learn construction trades. He transformed his business from a money-making machine into a purpose-driven organization that changed lives. This is the seventh pathway, developing your spiritual core in silence. This isn't about following any particular religion or spiritual practice. This is about taking time regularly to connect with the deepest part of yourself, to understand your purpose, to align your actions with your values, and to remember that you are part of something larger than yourself. Then you develop this inner foundation. Everything else in your life takes on new meaning. Your morning routine becomes not just about productivity, but about preparing yourself to serve. Your learning becomes not just about personal advancement, but about gaining wisdom to help others. Your skill development becomes not just about career success, but about creating value in the world. Your relationships become not just about networking, but about genuine connection and mutual growth. Your health becomes not just about personal well-being, but about having the strength to fulfill your purpose. Your wealth becomes not just about security, but about having resources to make a difference. Thomas's story shows us that external success without internal development is like a beautiful building with no foundation. It might look impressive from the outside, but it cannot withstand the storms of life. But when you build your spiritual core alongside your other achievements, you create something unshakable, something that gives meaning to all your efforts. Now, as I bring this to a close, I want you to remember that bamboo tree I told you about at the beginning. For 4 years, it grew in darkness, in silence, with no visible evidence of progress. But during those 4 years, it was developing the root system that would eventually support its incredible 90-foot rise. You are that bamboo tree right now, in this moment. You have the opportunity to begin your own period of quiet growth. You don't need to announce it to the world. You don't need to post about it on social media. You don't need anyone's permission or approval. You can start tomorrow morning by rising 30 minutes earlier than usual. You can begin feeding your mind with knowledge that transforms rather than information that merely entertains. You can start practicing a skill that excites you in the privacy of your own space. You can look for opportunities to serve others quietly and authentically. You can make the decision to treat your body as the temple that houses your dreams. You can pay yourself first and begin building wealth $1 at a time. And you can set aside time each day to connect with your deeper purpose and develop your spiritual foundation. These 7 pathways are not theory, they are practice. They are not concepts to understand, they are disciplines to embrace. They are not ideas to admire, they are choices to make every single day. The world is full of people who talk about what they're going to do. The world is full of people who make loud announcements about their plans. The world is full of people who seek applause for their intentions. But the world is desperately short of people who simply disappear into their purpose and emerge transformed. The world needs people who understand that the most powerful transformations happen in silence, that the strongest foundations are built in private, and that the greatest achievements begin with quiet. consistent, daily actions that nobody sees. You have everything you need to become that person. The question is not whether you can do it. The question is whether you will do it. Will you build yourself quietly? Will you trust the process of invisible growth? Will you commit to the daily disciplines that transform ordinary people into extraordinary achievers? Your bamboo moment is coming. But first, you must be willing to grow in the darkness, to develop in silence, to build yourself quietly into the person you were always meant to become. The time is now. The choice is yours. The future is waiting.